Thank you very much. And you all know me by name. I've been associated with Digital Fifth for over 2 years and been managing a lot of technology projects here. And I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our co-panelists and maybe a short introduction about them and what they do. Mr. Sandeep, would you like to go forward?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Sandeep Garg. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Blostem. Blostem is an asset tokenization platform and enabling use cases like fractional ownership and enabling collateral-based digital loans for real-world assets. So it's a young company. I've been a banker from a professional career perspective for more than a decade. I work with Yes Bank and ICICI Bank and IndusInd Bank in transaction banking domain. So that's about me. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah. So my name is Raktim Singh. I'm working in Infosys Finacle for last more than 20 years. So worked in various domain of the corporate banking, wealth management, digital banking. And I have authored 2 books. One was on the driving digital transformation and second is on Web3 and Metaverse. So yeah, that is what my introduction is.
I'm Sanchit. I'm the founder CTO of Cateina. We are a 6-year-old company. I think I said 6C, but yeah, it's a 6-year-old company. We focus on banking, insurance domain. We're very much focused on microservices and Web 3.0. And like I said, 6-year-old company. It's basically a real-world implementation of what Winston Churchill once said. He said, if you're going through hell, keep going. So that's what I've been doing for the last 6 odd years. In my previous avatar, I was also an educator. I was an assistant professor. I'm a hands-on CTO, and I hope I get that out today as well.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we are very happy to have you as our panelists today. And looking into the topic today, Web3 and Metaverse are some real-world potential new technologies that are coming down and are exploring the objectives of blockchain, decentralized finance, and virtual world applications. So we'll topic by topic discuss what exactly each of it mean and then dwell into the advanced discussion that we would like to take forward today. And discussing about Web3, which is mostly our semantic web, which can actually support your blockchain applications along with maybe some AI and ML models together, which can also facilitate read, write, and execute of the transactions. So we'd like to take this forum and understand each of our speakers' take on how they perceive Web3 as. Maybe we'll start with Sandeep.
Sure. So, I think, so the point is, what is Web3? And so there is no single standard definition of Web3 also. And for everyone, it has a different meaning. So, but to give you a context, so they say Web 1.0 was something where you can read as a user, right? Then came the next generation with social media, where you can read as well as you can write, right? So it was a two-way interaction between the the platform creators as well as the users. Web 3.0 is supposed to be read, write, plus own your own data. So now why is that even a big deal and why is it even required, right? So what happened is with Web 2.0, now we have all these giants of technology companies who basically own our data. So when I'm a YouTube creator and I put my content, at that time what is happening is the video is mine, but that content is owned by YouTube, right? Just imagine and then YouTube decides how much revenue will I earn, how much they will decide to share, and they have their own policies. So they will say what video will be monetized versus not monetized. If it's an Indian content creator, they will have some other rates going on per 100 likes or whatever. But for a US content creator, it will be something different. Now, imagine a situation where one fine day, you are a YouTuber, you wake up and all your content is gone, right? So it's even hard to fathom. But do you guys remember Orkut? So Orkut was one of the first social media platform before Facebook. I think most of us over here would have used it. But whatever your content was there, scraps that you generated, everything is gone. right? So Web3 basically intends to change that, where as a user, I am in control of my own data. I get to decide how I want it to be monetized. And even if that platform is not there, my content can still live. So that's the concept of Web3. So yeah.
Taking it forward, sir, would you like to add on
Yeah,
that?
so thanks. I think he has summarized, but still I'll say. So Web3 is the digital identities, then the decentralization of the data, and semantic web. So digital identities, of course, you own your data and the identities. Now, the beautiful thing is the decentralization of the data, which of course means the data can be a money or can be anything, and which I believe is the start of the creator economy, because what Sandeep has talked about it, that you have put some video on the social media, but you don't own it. Somebody else, that social media platform owns it. Think of the possibility, and we'll come to the banking cases little later, just to first to understand the Web3 and the creator economy, that maybe I have created a course on subject A and B, and I have put for monetization, and of course I earn the money. After that, somebody else has taken that course, whatever he has added for the subject C, something more into that, and he get the money, he can monetize that data. So that is where the creator economy will come with the Web3. Apart from that, of course, the decentralized finance, the decentralized gaming, the decentralized research, the science, there are many things are there which Web3 should yield to. So that is what my definition is, the digital identity, the decentralization of data, and semantic web.
I think it's already been explained, so I won't delve into the tech explanation, but I will give you, what I feel is a great metaphor for this. So on my way to this event, I had the misfortune of not being able to get an Uber. ठीक है, ये होता है. You are in Mumbai and गलती से आपने Paytm select कर रखा हुआ है, you will never get it. And again, I also have I think it's a 4.5 odd rating, and so they never take you. Anyway, long story short, I couldn't get an Uber, and so I opted for an auto, which is what you do. And the auto wala literally had the definition of Web 3.0 printed on the back of his auto. उसके auto के पीछे लिखा था खुदा ने and again I'm sorry if you guys don't, some of you don't understand Hindi or Urdu, this will reverberate. So लिखा था खुदा ने चाहा तो मंजिल तक पहुंचा दूंगा, अगर नजर चूकी तो खुदा से ही मिला दूंगा. This is, I think it's a great metaphor for Web 3.0, because this is literally what you get, right? Your classical software engineering, and in a way that Alan Turing thought of it, a typical 3-tier application would have a database, it would have a server, and it would have a presentation layer. It's true of every single website, whether you have a static site, dynamic site, e-commerce, whatever. It's the same everywhere. Database, server, UI. That's it. What Web 3.0 again expects to append here is the balance of who gets to own what. So in the typical structure, where you have your database and your servers, these are all supposed to be the domain of people with the expertise to develop them, right? And so you have a database and an application deployed in some kind of a cloud, on-prem, whatever you want to call it. But all of that monitored by actual, people who know what to do with that. And, they get to make the decision on what goes in an application and literally write the business rules that would drive an application. And so Web 3.0 बोलता है यार ये सब तो बकवास है, ठीक है? People should be able to be in charge of their own data, and we will take this to the extreme, and not just data, they should be in charge of the database, application, sab kuch. Right? And this is literally what Web 3.0 is. In fact, it extends that definition to also include non-humans, right? So this entire idea of, let's say, DAOs or DeFis is built on the assumption that, if you can have decentralized trust, where you don't have to trust somebody, you can actually program it into a protocol and just let it run for you. And so yeah, so खुदा ने चाहा तो मंजिल तक पहुंचा दूंगा. That's the first bit. But let's come to the second bit ना. क्योंकि नजर चूकी तो खुदा से कैसे मिलते हैं? That is literally when you find that you have some kind of code के अंदर कुछ bug लिख रखा हुआ है, and you either end up with hundreds of thousands of wallets getting drained away, or some kind of a bug being exploited, right? And that is literally where you find your khuda as well. So I'll say again, we have the tech definitions, of course, but I'll say this is the actual definition. If you ask me, it's not a panacea for all ills. It is a tool. When it works, it works. When it doesn't, I mean, फिर तो खुदा से मिलने जाते हैं.
That was fun. That was a funny take. Thank you for that. But taking into the discussion forward, we definitely understand that Web3 possibly explores the applications of decentralized finance, which are slightly different from the way the current banks are working. So let us try and understand how Web3 or the previous world Web2 has been contributing to the banking, and how decentralized finance can be explored for the future future users. So Sandeep, would you like to help us understand that?
Sure. So as we discussed, Web3. So now this phenomena called Web3 can have multiple applications. So one of the applications of this concept is in finance as well, which is called as decentralized finance. So when we say DeFi, so DeFi se pehle kya tha? So we had traditional finance. Now DeFi guys call it TradFi, right? And now there's something called as CeFi also, centralized finance. So anyways, during the discussion we'll go into that. So the point is this, so again, so from the perspective, okay, now there's a technology is there, and this technology can essentially enable individuals to transact with each other directly without intermediaries like a broker, exchange, or a bank, right? To basically do transactions like saving, lending, borrowing, insurance, even trading, right? So that is what DeFi can enable to do. But the question was, so why is that even a need there, right? So as Sanchit mentioned, so the traditional system works beautifully, right? So Uber works beautifully, but over here the biggest risk was that there is a trust that you need to have in your banking structure and in the traditional finance architecture itself. So for instance, in India, we have had instances where a bank has defaulted, or not defaulted, but close to default. So RBI came in, and where the banks and RBI said, okay, that for next 2 months, withdrawals will be stopped. So your amount, your money is held in the bank. And why did that happen, right? Because there is some goof up which that bank ended up doing. Because now your money is in the custody of someone else, and you expect that guy to do his job well. And we have regulations, oversight, governance, taking care of that. But in a country like India, that I will still say we can live with that, because we have had a huge track record of banks working very well. But in many countries, let's say a country like Argentina, where the government itself, let's say rogue, if I can use that term, where they kept on printing the money, and the valuation of your money itself went down so much, right? So that is where the folks, right, globally, who came up with this concept of Bitcoin and then moved on to DeFi now. So they said that can we have an architecture where we need not rely on the centralized intermediaries, right? We have protocol where rules of the game are created, and then we can function with each other. Now that's a very different matter, which Sanchit is alluding to, that the rule of the protocol itself are not being formulated in a good manner or in a very, mature manner, where the smart contracts itself are buggy in nature, which are leading to all these kind of things. So what I'm trying to say is that it's evolving technology, but that's the context. And if I look at it from how the societies have evolved, so there was a time when we used to have monarchy as the best form of government. We had autocratic governments, right? So that was very efficient, because one guy is taking the decisions on behalf of everyone. Someone came up with this crazy idea that we will have democracy, where the vote of each and every individual will be basically accounted for, right? And then the governance will happen. Obviously, when democracy came, it would have been very messy, things would have become very slow, right? But today, as we know, as a country like India, we will never want to go into autocratic kind of regime. Democracy is messy, but we love it, right? So I will say we can use it see it from that prism and see how this technology is being shaped up. Thank you.
I'll taking this discussion forward. Sanchit, will you help us understand how the banks can actually, or the financial institution can actually take forward the DeFi technology, or how are the existing technical stacks going to fare up to utilize this particular technology?
I'll just take this as a continuation of what Sandeep said here, right? So I love futurism, but I'm also a practical guy, which means we have to talk about the present, right? At present, we live in a country जहाँ पे budget जब बनता है ना, तो we even talk about toothpaste पे कितना लगेगा, jam, jelly, अचार पे कितना देना पड़ेगा, packaged चटनी पे कितना देना पड़ेगा. So basically, when your FM comes in with a budget, they literally make the budget of the country. ठीक है, दूध की थैली पे क्या कहते हैं, अगर आप GST लगा देते हो, it's a separate thing. So that's the reality, right? And this is a macroeconomic reality. What does that really mean? It basically means that you have governments who are in charge of defining what the larger picture is. They have a top-down view of what's supposed to work, at what rate, etc. And so that effectively drives your inflation and activities thereof. Now coming to how this ties in with the question again. So you are in a scenario where you have a top-down, I would say, Gyan ki Ganga as far as policy is concerned. So how do banks benefit from it then? Well, I would say there are scenarios where it can actually work, but then even in those cases, it's actually going to be, let's say, bounded by the context set by various regulators. I can give you a very simple example. Blockchain is always said to be slow, as a database, and so we said, what, it can't really replace payments. Let's make it work for trade instead, right? Trade ke andar you have your low to medium volumes, and so it really makes sense. Also, you have this non-repudiation wala capability, and so blockchain is probably the best fit. And I think it's a good example of that. But if you think about the actual implementation in India, for instance, we have entities who are in charge of this kind of a non-repudiation. If I just take letters of credit and bank guarantees, for instance, we have NESL, which is like the nodal entity who's responsible for issuing e-bank guarantees and letters of credit, which means that if you want non-repudiation, the banks now don't have to rely on a decentralized, disintermediated network, which they would have to manage on their own. It's now centralized, it's part of an actual structure set by the sovereign, and then they can just follow that. And it would really work. As far as a bank's readiness is concerned for adopting it, I would say everybody's ready. Pretty much every large, not even pretty much, every bank, every large bank worth its weight today has an API program. They all have integration buses, which means that as long as the API specifications for a solution are out there, as long as a framework is available, they are more than capable of integrating that. And so so as far as as far as domestic trade is concerned, some of it is handled. If they really still want to build, let's say, intermediated and decentralized solutions which are outside the purview of whatever the regulator has set for them, it's still super possible, right? All you have to really do is set the context and make it work. But that's exactly where the challenge lies. It's not a technical challenge. Let me answer it that way. Everybody has the tech. The challenge always is with the governance. And you might always think of it as the bekar sa cheese, but it's always the most important thing as far as this recipe is concerned. A good example of that is VTrade. So VTrade, it's a consortium which was founded by European banks based out of Europe. It was backed by IBM. They used IBM tech to build this entire trade finance ecosystem which they used for multiple use cases in supply chain, etc., etc. And it started, like I said, it started off as a consortium, and it was backed by technologists, and these were all banks working together. The question was, and this is fundamental, again, like I said, this is fundamental to the architecture, but again ties in with who gets to own what. Since it is disintermediated and decentralized, you probably will end up with a database on which somebody else has written something, which means as a regulated entity, you are opening yourself up to counterparty risk just out the gate. I mean, that's it. You have to accept counterparty risk as soon as you start operating it. The question then is, okay, if you have risk, who do you give this back to? That's literally what you do with risk, okay, right? आपको कोई risk देता है, आपको किसी और को risk दे देते हो. So how do you do it then? So you do it by devolving the consortium and then creating a centralized company which will take all of that risk. So now there's no vagueness on who gets this risk, which is literally what VTrade did as well, right? In fact, India ke andar bhi banks have done this. They have a BIC which does this, and this is literally what VTrade did. So VTrade became a company, incorporated in Europe, and they ran this for about, I would want to say 4 or 5 years, and they ran it for 4 years, 5 years, until they ran it into the ground. So VTrade filed Chapter 11 sometime last year, I think July or something, and they became bankrupt. They basically said, okay, ho gaya, liquidation karte hain. And that liquidation event happened, and everybody went their own merry separate ways. And like I said, it's not a tech ka problem there, it's a problem of the governance. Bhai, people are going to have different expectations. These are all competitors out there. They're all going to be in charge of submitting data, of being able to look at the compliance of the smart contracts that you're writing, of being able to audit every single thing that you put in there. And so it becomes super messy. And so you start with a company structure, and maybe when you have a company, what's super important is the bottom line. So you start with the problem of governance, you solve that problem of governance by having a company structure, but now that you have a company structure, you have a separate problem, which is bottom line. And if the bottom line isn't met, well, then everything is a farce. I think those are two critical issues. Tech, I think it can handle itself. It's blockchain, Web 3.0 today, but you could just replace it with any other thing in future as well. Eventually, all business decisions have to drive profitability. If they don't, then the tech can just go home, play ball.
Taking this discussion forward, Raktim sir, how do you see decentralized finance, and what is your take on decentralized applications coexisting with the current banking stack?
So I'll add to it that technology always create a level playing field, and I think that we have seen, be it a payment or whatever the fintech today we are seeing, why everybody or anybody who has a laptop and can do the coding. So sort of those entry barriers are going down, and that is what technology has done, that anybody who can do can create wonders. Now in case of decentralized finance, of course, as Sandeep was saying, it's sort of a peer-to-peer lending, so what's so great? The only thing is in the peer-to-peer lending, and we have seen those examples, let's say earlier in the community bank, you always try to give to the people whom you trust or whom do you know. So of course you will not lend money to somebody who you don't know, or you go to the institution like bank who provide the trust. Now here the blockchain and the smart contract along with that is providing the necessary trust. So I need not know the other person, I can lend there, and whatever the terms and conditions are there encoded in the smart contract. So when I'm lending, I need not lose sleep, because in case something goes wrong, I know that a smart contract, which is a software code only, will get executed and my money will get recovered. So if you notice now what is happening, anybody can lend to anybody else whom I don't know, can be across the boundaries, across locations, and I still need not worry, and there is nothing of a nagging issue of going after those borrowers to recover my money, because as I said, a smart contract is there and that is sort of ruthless. It will just get executed whenever those conditions which were agreed upon get met. So according to me, that is the beauty of that, and we can talk further on the smart contract of the programmability, the transparency. But to me, the main thing is the technology is now again creating a level playing field for everybody and maybe for the full ecosystem to grow bigger. So that is what the DeFi will do.
And circling this discussion back to Sandeep, so we understood the possibilities of what DeFi can do and what Web3 can contribute to. So is there a midway between Web 2 and Web 3? And I mean, is there a easier way that we can start implementing or looking at DeFi or any other applications,
Yeah,
or
correct.
decentralization as a concept?
Hello. Yeah. So, so see, now the way things are evolving, so there is a polarity. So polarity is between the centralized architectures of traditional banking finance structures, and then on the other hand side, we have the DeFi, which says that it's completely decentralized. There is no intermediary as all. So there is no intermediary who is setting the rules of the game. There is no intermediary who is even, say, testing whether the applications which have been built are robust enough or not, right? They are not even verifying the identity of the users, right? So these are two extremes. So the point is, now in the existing banking architecture, a lot of financial transactions are still done in silos, right? So when we talk about financial architecture, so there are banks, there are lenders, there are, say, exchanges, and as a user, as an individual, I interact with all of them, right, for various financial requirements of mine. Now, where is the world heading into? So let's say recently there was a DEPA guideline by Niti Aayog, right, which speaks about the fact that the data belongs to the user, right, and the user should have access to their service providers, right, seamless, in a very seamless manner. They should not be limited to the same data provider only. So now, say I'll give you an example. Say when we talk about payment industry. So today in payment industry, when you want to buy say, a good from a shopkeeper, that shopkeeper is working with, say, SDFC Bank, and your account is with ICICI Bank. You don't even have to think once, right? So the interoperability is always there, because the UPI, RTGS, NEFT, those frameworks are already behind the scenes. But as an individual, some assets have been issued to you by an organization one, and you want to use that asset and take a loan against that using some other lender. Now, that lender will need to verify the status of that asset from the source, and that entire process is very tedious, manual, and there is no protocol which is enabled today. And the further challenge is these entities are also competing organizations. So they don't want to share the data with each other. And they definitely don't want to share the data with a third-party aggregator, right? That is where these decentralized applications can be used, but you need not go whole hog, where every aspect of the things has to be decentralized per se, right? So for example, the user, we have a fantastic Aadhaar-based KYC system is there. So your self-sovereign identity is not required in that application. But we can use the components of DeFi and enable these transactions to happen where the data privacy is taken care of. Still collaborative transactions happen amongst the financial institutions, which basically add value to the user and also grow the entire pie for the entire network. Yeah.
So taking the discussion of Web3 to the continuation, how do we see a metaverse as a concept being explored by the banks, and being an immersive virtual world experience? How do you see metaverse being, being futuristically explored? Maybe not just the financial institutions per se, but as a concept.
For me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, first I'll just close the Web3 loop. So I think he rightly summed it up. As I was talking that community banks, and now we will see the emergence of DAO, which is decentralized autonomous organizations, who decide the rule, and based on those rules, money get lended or borrowed. And as I said, the beauty is that because this is a code and people across the boundaries can be part of the DAO, there need not be ACI or there need not be any hierarchy. And everybody adhere to those rules or they're forced to because a smart contract anyhow will get executed. So yeah, coming to that and yeah, we have a debate also on the centralized finance, decentralized finance, and I think maybe the room is there for all the things, be it the traditional finance, what you mentioned, centralized finance, decentralized finance. Let's see. I think the beauty, or I keep on saying that blockchain, which is like tamper-proof data, and smart contract, which is the programmability, which get executed middle of the night or 24/7. It is somebody looking or running the things. So that is the Web3. Now, going to Metaverse, I think that is altogether different thing. So first, let's arrive at the definition because I think there are too many definitions on even on the net also what exactly is Metaverse. And because of that, I came out with my own definition. Like according to me, what has happened till now, or it is still happening, that many of the organization and including bank and financial institution are doing the digital transformation, and I've coined the term which I called ACID, like you use the artificial intelligence, cloud, internet of thing and data. So it was all about making a collection of data, making a meaning of the data, and that's why we have seen some organization coming out of with the next best offer or making hyper personalization. But this was all about data. Now the next thing is the experience. And what we also have to remember in this, at least I belong to earlier age when there was only physical branches, and then when the internet came, we saw the online banking, and it was a wow thing. You can do something at home. But I think for the Gen Z, they started with the online banking, and especially in the last 2 years, anyhow there was no physical branch. So for them, online banking was the default. Like the way for me, the physical branch was default. For them, the online banking was default. What next? And that is where I say Metaverse provides the experience. So to me, Metaverse is the providing a immersive experience where you can create the digital clone of anything. When I say anything, it can be anything, any living person, non-living person, and that ecosystem where you have created the digital clone is immersive. It means all 5 senses are there. You can see, hear, touch, smell, taste, all the things are there, though I will say it's still somewhere technology is not totally taken up, but at least the proof of concept has been done where you can smell and taste also, touch any of us there. And this metaverse is there running 24/7, so it means any point of time, anywhere you are at your home, it is persistent. So this is where, if I sum it up, it is like a more of a providing the ability to create an ecosystem where immersive digital clone of anything. It can be a clone of me, it can be a clone of Sandeep or Sanchit or of a building or any other fictional character or an entirely new world, a fantasy park can be created and which you can experience by sitting at your home. So that is what my definition of metaverse is.
Taking it to Sanchit, how do you see Metaverse growing? Maybe as a virtual real estate concept, or maybe NFTs being embedded, or any other financial or decentralized finance being explored in the world of Metaverse?
I think by now people already have an idea of where I stand on these things. But I think instead of delving deeper into my understanding of the tech, I'll get to that as well. I'll just take a metaphor for the metaverse, right? So if I have a few minutes, okay? And this is where I think this entire idea of the metaverse comes in as well, right? कि कल तक रब को भूला था, अब नाम लगा है रटने, जब माल लगा है घटने, लगा कलेजा फटने, तो खैरात लगी है बटने, पर चिंता की कोई बात नहीं है, हम हैं तेरे साथ, पहुंचा दें उसके कानों तक हम ये तेरी बात, क्योंकि दरबार में ऊपर वाले के अंधेर नहीं पर देरी है, तकदीर का सारा खेल है ये और वक्त की हेरा फेरी है. This is again, I'm sorry for taking a couple of minutes here. वहाँ पे लाइटें भी जलनी शुरू हुई थी. ये माता का जगराता नहीं है, but I think this is an actuality here, right? So we have reached a point, right? We've reached a point where there's nothing extra to sell, and we are selling something more. If you look at some of the investments which have happened here, right? So there's a company, there's the hundreds of $1 billion worth of customer valuation, and they literally rebranded themselves overnight, which is Meta, right? We already know about Meta and the kind of power they are becoming in this sector. I think Metaverse will have its uses, okay? For now, I think it's a tool for the management to show to their shareholders at an AGM. यहाँ पे कोई है क्या? People here who've seen Jetsons? Anybody who's seen Jetsons ever? Right? देखा है ना? 1960s, 70s का program है, right? Have you really seen it? Does that tech look futuristic to you ever? Jetsons really looks like somebody who's in their 70s, their idea of what the future would be. Have you seen any of these movies which were futuristic, by the way? Blade Runner. Have you seen Blade Runner? It's an awesome movie. It's great script, great acting, sab kuch great. The one bad thing about that was their idea of what the future would be. You know, I think we are close to the year where Blade Runner thought we would be. And just look at the world around us. We don't have any flying cars. And that's literally true. What we do is, we take the future and our idea of the future and we superimpose what we feel would be to what is. And I think that's where you get, again, a presupposition of where things are. Which is not to say that we are not going to have Metaverse anytime soon. We are there. In fact, we are there already. And I think there are companies who've done a fantastic job in pulling together an ecosystem of products, services, and experiences, and they really do a great job. And you actually, you know what? You don't even have to have a virtual experience with, real estate on a nondescript, unknown, make-believe planet. You don't have to do any of that. All you need to do is have good experience. I personally have I work with banks. Doesn't mean that bankers are my best friends or that I would want to have a personal banker in my living room, much less my bedroom. What it really means is, if I want to make a purchase, it should be seamless, quick. That's it. And there are ecosystems which do this really well. You look at the eye ecosystem, whatever they have. It's a fantastic ecosystem. It's not giving me a virtual Siri or a Halo-like experience today, but I'm very happy with whatever I'm getting. And I think, I don't think of myself as a visionary. I'm not. Like I said, I'm a practical guy. I can't even tell you what I'm going to do in the next 5 minutes. गाना भी गाने वाला हूँ, तो वो अभी पता लगा मेरे को. So I don't think I can tell you what's going to happen in the future, but what's definitely going to happen is that all of these ideas of the future are going to go through a rubber meeting the road test. And when that rubber meets the ground, that's when we are going to find that, everything is driven by bottom lines, and there are certain things which don't really scale that well. So if you want to give a virtual whatever experience, you're going to realize very soon that the number of cores required to support that kind of experience is just not worth the trouble. it's a question of, value creation versus valuation. I think we've seen the valuation for a very long
I
time.
have a little disagreement here. I will
Raktim
say
sir,
that
just before you continue, I've been given the
just I'll
5-minute
just
timer.
complete.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah.
See, again, when, as I said, I'm part of Finacle, and when the online banking is started, and one of my friend, of course, who was heading that time, he told me that you can do the payment through mobile banking. And I was like, what does that mean? First, of course, I knew that time it was web. I'm talking of 96, 97. Who will open the bank page and then type in user ID and blah, 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 and do the payment. Like, okay, it's a fancy thing. Who will do? But now today sitting here, of course, in between many other things have happened, be it a smartphone, be it a QR code, many other things have come, and now mobile payment is our default thing, at least here. So I think, yeah, I take your point, but the way it will evolve, and similarly, maybe for the phone also, I guess Steve Jobs shouldn't have done it. Maybe he would have made the voice better and maybe, a phone lighter, but I think he thought of something else, and maybe many times now we take the smartphone not maybe for talking, but many of the other things. To me, that is what the Gen Z is there. If we today look at the gaming, online gaming, and the franchises are there and the coaches are there, that itself tell how this industry is coming. But I agree it will take time because there are many things required, but just the looking at the sponsorship amount for those online gaming and the coaches, the salary they get it for those playing for this one. So that is what maybe it will tell, but yeah, it will go through. And I will just add to it, where do I see the business use cases? One, of course, as I said, Metaverse will become one of the channel. Like today, the online banking is one of the channel. To support tomorrow, it will be, Metaverse will be one more channel to support your customers with full experience. And what I keep on saying, when you go to the bank, you get a experience. And when you go to the online thing, you get a convenience. You can search it, you get the result very fast. If I can combine those experience and convenience, that's what Metaverse is. Like you get the experience, you can touch, feel, say, whatever, literally sitting at your home, and you can talk with the bankers that way. Better experience you get it. So that is one thing where you help your customer getting the channel. Other thing is now the other development which are happening, and another hot topic I'm sure which is going on with the chat GPT, which we know that can get the answer for that. Now banks can use Metaverse plus chat GPT for internal training. Similarly, for the youth who are still entering, and this is for the Gen Z, for them the training, the gamification of the banking, so that the various difficult concepts, be it a derivative, factoring, forfeiting, all those can be explained. Now, these are the things which are still cost to the bank, be it internal training or training to their other customers who are joining the Gen Z. So for them, the Metaverse plus many other dots, if we connect, we will get it.
In the interest of time, we'll maybe quickly summarize the particular discussions that we've been having here. So we see that Web3 and Metaverse as concepts and decentralized finance as concepts are having a lot of potential use cases for the future. But there are also a lot of challenges, maybe technology, governance, and a few other, concepts like the technology actually reaching the rural area where even the smartphones have not penetrated is something that we all have to think about and still continue to explore is what my take is on. Maybe with this, we'll just take maybe one question or a couple. We'll take questions offline. Yeah, sorry.
I'll add to it. See, again, we all have to understand, and I think with the last 2 days, what we are saying. According to me, banking is like electricity. It's like a utility. It need to power all customer journeys, and that is what banking will become in Metaverse also. You call it embedded finance or banking as a service. So all the things what we talk about it, that somewhere banking has to propel all those experiences. It has to be behind the scene, but many other things banking will play a role, be it by embedding into that.